This is the video review for Webdiver Ortorion and Webdiver Kerberion. As you can see, Kerberion is a 3-headed dog, Ortorion is a 2-headed dog, although he's in his drill tank mode right now. They're basically the same mold, just slightly retooled, like 3-headed dog, 2-headed dog. This guy has a saw blade for his weapon bit. This guy has a drill bit. There are a couple other differences aside from the colors, but we'll get into those when we combine them into Golemon. So, let's see, how do I want to do this? I don't think I want to show the transformation twice because it's just the same thing, and getting into Golemon is easier from the dog mode. So I will show you how to transform these guys from the tank mode to the dog mode. It's fairly simple, but, well, I'll go over the dog mode, or over the tank mode first. It's a decent tank mode. I mean, it looks like machinery. It doesn't really look like one of the dogs. It looks different enough that I wouldn't guess what it is, except for the feet hanging off. But it doesn't really look like anything. It's just kind of there. And one thing that really sucks about this thing is because there are a lot of joints in these bits, around like here and here. That means that it can be very hard to get this thing to rest stable, and it doesn't really roll. It just slides. So this is the drill mode. You can rotate this bit here, although it doesn't spin freely, and that exposes screw holes, so there's not really much of a point to it. And you can extend this out so you can bend it around. More useful on that guy with his saw bit, but there's just not much to this tank mode. To transform this into the dog, fold these guns back. Take this, bring it back, and collapse it in, and that will, oh wait, rotate around, and then collapse it in, and that will make a tail. Now what you want to start doing is you want to bring this around, rotate this around, and it will kind of peg in, although it's a very weak peg in. And then here you can see the individual dog faces. Each dog face on Ortorion and Kerberion is different. They are quite nice, and their mouths open. Now, to continue on, well, I suppose you could have like a dog with treads, but what we need to do is need to rotate these up, which should give you room to deal with these. And rotate those up on a hinge right here, and then you have the thigh joint here, and you can pull the legs down. So, up, down, and then bring these around, and they'll kind of snap into place, and bring the legs down. It's all very fiddly because the legs are laden with a bunch of joints to get them everywhere they need to go for every mode. But that is basically the transformation. Now I will say transforming this guy into the tank mode is easier because he has fewer heads and you don't have to do as much effort to store them under, but they are basically the same. So for articulation, the heads can move forward and back, rotate, and look up and down. They have the jaw. Yeah, they have a bunch of joints in the neck. Legs go back and forth like this. They're kind of plugged in there a little bit. You can bend this here and here. Rotate these, and these, and you can rotate this part of the tail around. There's not too much articulation. They're just kind of there. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of these guys, although Golemon is quite nice. Let me show you the heads on Kerberion. I do like the sculpts on these. So now, let's get these guys combined into Golemon. Sorry. One thing that is interesting about transforming these guys into Golemon is Golemon actually has two heads. He has this head right here, which I prefer, and then he has this head right here, which it looks okay, and in concept it's good, but because it's all painted mostly this white color, and there isn't really any kind of wash, it just, the detail gets lost in it, and something about the pearlescent white just looks kind of, I don't know, wrong. I can't quite describe it. You have to see it in person because the pearlescent white on Ortorion is just kind of disturbing for some reason. It's kind of icky. So now what you want to do to transform these guys is you want to figure out which one of these guys you want facing the front, like or which, if you want them oriented like this, with the purple on the left side, lighter purple on the right side, or the other way around. I typically have them like this. It doesn't really matter. You'll pull the head out and the head can face this way or that way, so it doesn't matter. So start folding up the legs, and the legs just sort of get in the way a lot. There's a lot that can be done with them, but it's entirely up to your preference. So pull these out, foot out, and try and get the leg stuffs out of the way. There's a little tab right there that goes into there that keeps these down when in tank and in dog mode. Bring them out for now, I guess. I mean, just make sure everything's out of the way so stuff doesn't bump it together when you put these guys together. I have a special way that I like to arrange everything, but we'll get into that. I'm just kind of fiddling right now because the legs on this guy are just, or the dog legs on these guys are just really annoying. So do the same to the other side, basically, except leave the head in. Oh, one thing I did forget, you're supposed to rotate the dog heads around like this. And yeah, that's basically the half. These things were designed roughly around the time that the Brave series was winding down, and the way they combine reminds me a lot of the symmetrical docking from Gal Gaigar. So just fold stuff up, telescope down, rotate around, telescope this out. And yeah, he does have a nice posable hands right here on each side. And yeah, this is basically what the sides are going to look like. You'll bring them together like this. There are a bunch of clips right here. So clip them together here. And then you want to make sure the head connects between the two. And this is a very disturbing arrangement of a Golemon, because these sort of saddlebag things to the side, you can do a lot with them, or you can do a lot with a lot of stuff. So let's start arranging them. I'll show you what I like. You will probably have to figure out what works best for you, because there's no real nice way to handle this stuff. So I'm dealing with his back right now. I like to make sure these are pushed together, and then let's see. And then I push these together as well, so that these things are just all sort of packed into the back nice and tightly, and they'll stay out of the way of the kibble, or they won't become kibble. And then the chest, I like to make sure these hinges are all the way down, push them together, and then I actually like to push these under the armpits. Now they're supposed to just be sort of saddlebags off to the side, but I don't like that because it interferes with the legs. And the arms, well, it does interfere with the arms having them like that, but it makes his chest look a lot broader, which I think looks better. And the arms don't really have the posability they need to really take advantage of, you know, being able to go down. So if I had to choose between the arms and legs, I would choose to have the legs unlimited. Now the legs still aren't that great, but not having these saddlebag things out to the side really does help him. And I do like his wide chest like that. I think that looks intimidating and menacing. Now for posability, he is sadly lacking. His legs go forward, back, they rotate above where he goes forward and back, so it's very strange. If he had a bicep, thigh swivel right here, it would kind of work, but it carries a knee joint with him too, wherever he bends like this, so you can get poses out of this, but it doesn't really work very well. Especially because the ball joints in the legs and the feet are just a little bit too loose. So you can get him to pose, and it might look decent, but it's a lot of trouble. It can be. Usually I just end up mirroring each leg, mostly, because that's usually how it's going to be most stable. Now for the arms, they rotate in and out first, then forward and back, and then he has a bicep swivel, and one-click elbow. Now the hands, well, the hands are basically the same design, but on Ortorion, they're kind of a bitch, because you see his drill messes with the range of his fingers here. And his thumb, it can go back and forth, which is interesting because if the back side were the front, you would want the thumb to be on that side. So that's very thoughtful that he gets a posable thumb like that. And because it's on a ball joint, you can even rotate a little bit, although it's kind of hard to do that. I just leave it out like that. It's a lot better on this hand because with this thing not interfering with the fingers as much, they can move away and it looks more like a hand. And then finally, his head can turn. So I like the way he looks. He ends up being kind of lackluster because of the posability restrictions. And I don't really know why they gave him these idiotic legs, because it's not like giving him better legs would have interfered with his dog or with their dogs or tank modes. So I don't really recommend this guy, but if you like the way he looks and you're just looking for a display piece, you might enjoy him, especially if you like the configuration I have like this, because I think this is how he looks best. So I review Webdiver figures, Power Rangers figures, Marvel figures, Transformers figures, Men in Black figures. If any of that sounds interesting, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.